CMMS Radio talks about all things CMMS, computerized maintenance management software, focused on maintenance management. It's the people, the process, and the culture that make your CMMS journey a success. Welcome back, everybody. If you're looking, you see him on screen. That's Mike Payne. He is with Hill Manufacturing. We're going to talk about Hill Manufacturing. We're going to talk a little bit about maintenance. We are going to talk about making chips. And I want to let everybody know that this guy is going to be at Hexagon Live in Las Vegas. That's coming up in June. So if you're going to that, make sure you find him and say hello. Mike Payne, welcome to CMMS Radio.
Man, thanks for having me. I know we've tried to do this for a little while. I'm glad we finally met up and made it happen.
Yeah. It's not easy. Everybody's out there running and gunning, doing their thing. I know you go to events. You got to do the work at the company. You got making chips. So let's just talk about making chips for a second, because for people that don't know what it is and why it is, which would kind of shock me, but just in case, tell me a little bit about making chips, what that is, and why that is.
Okay, so so real quick, so making chips it's actually a little bit more than it used to be, right? So it used to be a podcast for manufacturing leaders, and
Yep.
It's now a network of podcasts. We actually have 10 shows now, and really what we're trying to do is our mission hasn't changed, which is to equip and inspire manufacturing leaders. But I think if you boil it down to the next level, there's lots of resources out there to learn how to run machines well, any of the skill side of our industry, right? And there's tons of resources out there, great resources. There's not a lot of resources out there how to run those companies. And if you look at our family of shows, again, we have 10 shows now, and they all kind of with their own little niche. And we're all of us as hosts run our own manufacturing businesses every day, and we feel your pain, right? We talk about cool new stuff. We talk about, man, I had a shitty day and here's why, or I'm struggling with this, or we had a big scrap, or I've got a personnel issue, or whatever. This, as your listeners know, and our listeners certainly know, it's tough business, and it's not all rainbows and unicorns. It's a pain in the ass a lot of the time. Yeah. So we talk about some real stuff, and we talk about things that we've done that have worked and things that have failed. And we talk to, vendors in the industry that have solutions to some of those problems and so forth. So makingchips.com has a, link to all the shows. Like I said, there's, so I'm a host on Making Chips, and I also have my own show called By the Numbers, where I kind of talk all things finance, accounting, KPIs, merger acquisition, because that's my background. That's what I'm good at. So hopefully I can, share some knowledge on, maybe how to save money on your taxes, or if you're looking to buy a shop or sell a shop, how do you optimize the value of it and things like that. So.
Yeah. And that's those are the kind of things that we all want to pay forward, help somebody that's in that situation, get them thinking if they're considering that, maybe somebody works at a shop, they're in a machine shop, they've been there for whatever, 2 years, 8 years, and
25
the
years,
owner,
whatever.
Yeah. And the owner might want to say, hey, I want to go do other stuff with my family or whatever. And one of those individuals sometimes gets involved and tries to make that acquisition so they can keep that thing going. And this is all good stuff. I love storytelling, kind of, I don't know, stories from the trenches, whatever. That'd be a pretty cool podcast for you guys.
That would launch just the bad stuff.
Yeah. Like what's really going on and how'd you get out of it, or what kind of went from it. So, I'm always interested in maintenance management. I love things that are about leadership. I don't claim to be like a guru or an expert on all that stuff. I like taking pot shots and calling out real stuff and just getting these stories because they matter. And I know you've been doing that for a while, but now I want to bring it back, all the way back to Hill Manufacturing, and just give us a little bit on, maybe background of what most specifically you do at Hill Manufacturing. And I also love to know, your backstory as to how you got there, like how you got to Hill Manufacturing, what inspired you prior to that, how you got into manufacturing, machine shops, and some of the other things, just to give people a taste of that.
Yeah, so I can't really tell one without the other. So we'll start with the background. Grew up in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Went to the University of Tulsa. Uh, got a bachelor's degree in MIS, so computers for business. Uh, Immediately after graduating, started a software business, and we mostly did software for manufacturers. And we did well quick. Grew from 2 to 40 or 50 or something in 3 or 4 years. I exited that in 2003. During that time, I was not really much of an IT guy. I mean, that's what my degree was, and I could talk it, but I mean, that wasn't my skill set. Was really more kind of in the project management and the sales and so forth. But with that rapid growth we had, we went through 2 rounds of investment fundraising, and then I exited the company. Right, so I got exposed to like the transactional side of business, right? Raising investments and selling your company and stuff like that. And after exiting that, kind of reflecting, so I was 30 at the time, I guess. Yeah, 30. And, I was like, okay, what do I want to do now? Right. I mean, it wasn't like I sold that to a point where I didn't have to do anything.
Yeah.
It just was it was just a nice little exit. Um, and so you had to kind of like really reflect, like, what do I like, and what I found, what I kind of, and actually my wife reminded me of this years later when I was debating on the Hill thing. But what I'd found is I really liked that transaction side of the business. I liked the raising the money and, kind of and then taking that and executing a growth plan and all that type of stuff. I liked the process of selling the company, those types of things. And I also really liked manufacturing. So when we started, we were very manufacturing centric. As we exited, we were really kind of more in the mobile space.
Mm-hmm.
Early mobile, like Palm Pilot mobile, so like well before iPhones and all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
And, but I liked that manufacturing piece and I liked the transactions piece. So what I did for the next 15 years was I helped people and myself buy, sell companies, raise investment monies, do turnarounds, all types of stuff. And in that 15 years, probably, was involved in, at that time, probably 120 to 130 transactions. So buying a company, helping someone buy, helping someone invest, helping someone sell, whatever. Right.
Yeah.
And, but the whole time I was kind of looking for my own thing. And, so roundabout to Hill, I had known the previous owner for, 20 years probably. And I'd say like probably around 2013, 14, something like that. She reached out to me, asked me if I'd help her sell the company. She was, at that time, probably mid 60s or so, something like that. And early to mid 60s, probably. And was starting to plan her exit, just like we talked about. There's like, people go through that next cycle. And so she's starting to plan. She wants help. She wanted to get a little, she wanted to get a couple works of prepping to sell in. So I was kind of helping her do that and then, go to market. And so I was helping do that at Hill. Somewhere along the line in 2017, the offers we were looking at, I'm like, I don't really like any of these for you. Like, I like your business. Like, I would buy it for better than these, And she said, okay, well, make me an offer. And I did.
Yeah.
So fast forward, so what I bought was at the time, 41-year-old business that had established a really, really great legacy business in the Northeast Oklahoma market, mostly serving the energy market. Really good. I mean, making some of the same parts for 40 years, right? I mean, just a good standard shop. I think at the time we had maybe 20 machines, something like that, 30 people, 40, I don't know. Also a pretty big welding and fabrication practice. So it was about 50-50 machining and welding and fabrication. Fast forward to today, we still are 50-50 roughly, welding, fabrication, and CNC. We've got now we have 39 spindles. We've got, I don't know, 15, 20,000 square foot of welding and fabrication, something like that. We've diversified out of being purely energy like we were, so we do some aerospace, we do, lots of general industrial work. We kind of have a mix of, doing production style stuff and also doing a lot of prototype type work, which is two totally different things, really. I mean, they're not totally different, but they're different. So we've kind of developed a lot of those kind of different service lines that we can help people with. And matter of fact, working on another acquisition right now that'll tack on another 20 machines, so not slowing down. A lot of my strategy, like throughout my career when I've been buying and selling stuff, is like, I like to buy things that I think I can double in 5 years and every 5 years. We've hit that goal and we'll have to, continue doing that. Again, it's every 5 years, right? It's not so years 1 through 5 and then years 2 through 6 and 3 through 7, right? So, so you're never slowing down, right? And I like that growth to be, I think to maintain that level of growth for an extended period of time, it's going to have to be a mix of, like internal growth with new customer work or even existing customer work, whatever, but also with, kind of externally, through merger acquisition, which I have a strong background in. And so between those two, we're able to maintain our growth strategies. And, the thing I find most rewarding really now that I've kind of just zeroed in on doing what I know how to do in this industry is on that merger acquisition side, I really, really, really take a lot of, I don't know what the right word is. I'm very honored, I will say, when I do these, that I get to help monetize someone's life work. Right. So like Cheryl had spent 40 years building Hill. I mean, Liz and Jerry had spent 30 years building C&D. I mean, like, as I go down these shops I've bought, these people have invested their entire lives in this, right? I mean, their blood, their sweat, their tears, everything. And, I think we're at a place in our market where, too many people are, one of your exit options in this industry, because there's so much equipment and real estate and everything involved, is just shut the door and auction everything off. And you can still walk away with a lot of money in that case, right?
How often does that happen?
I think
just generally,
in my experience, it's happening across the country every day. I mean, of the 5 shops I've bought now in the last 7 years, 3 of them were ready to do that when I bought them. No, actually 4 of them were ready to do that when I bought them. And as a matter of fact, this 6th one that I'm working on right now, I mean, he's ready to do the same thing. And, what does someone like me do? I mean, one, they provide me the growth and the people, the customers, the machines, the resources I need to achieve my growth goals. Right. And I'm going to pay them more than the auction's going to pay them. Right. Because I'm going to buy those people. I'm going to buy those customers. I'm going to buy that name. I'm going to buy that history that they have that you're not going to get at auction. Right.
Right.
So, I mean, I honestly, it probably sounds a little facetious for me to be like, oh, I'm honored to buy their companies, but I really am. Like, I feel like it's an important thing. I think it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing for the industry to keep these companies alive. Paul Van Meer and I, you'll notice, like, on social media, we occasionally use the hashtag Save a Shop, right? Like, it's kind of a thing that, like, we're like, hey, this is part of our mission. Like, we can help save these shops because our country needs them, right?
Oh man. So everything you're talking about, man, you're hitting all these things that I think are impactful, but when I talk about like meaning in a meaningful way, the whole time you're describing this, I'm like, this is stewardship. This is stewardship. This is
There's
stewardship.
an element of it
where you're trying to cultivate something rather than only focusing on the money. The money's a major part of it, but
let me preface everything I just said with, I am a capitalist and I'm in this to make money. Like, I'm not I'm not acting like, I don't want anybody to think like I'm acting like I'm holier than thou and I'm just doing it
Right.
purely out of my, good faith or what. I mean, yeah, I'm here to make money.
But I really love, I'm going to use the word love. I love the concept of preserving, protecting, and keeping going, like saving a shop, a brand, because I think that stuff matters. I'm getting to an age now, heading towards double nickels, where I really have a greater appreciation for the past than I
Yes.
ever did before. And I don't like things to go away unless that's the right thing or it makes sense. It's the right
It's,
move.
absolutely. There are absolutely times that's just, I mean, and matter of fact, I looked at one recently. I was helping one of my listeners, and like most of my listeners know, like if they reach out to me and they're looking to buy a shop or something, like I'll help them, and I was helping a listener last week look at a shop. He's like, "Hey, I think I could buy this," and I listened to your show about how to finance it. Like, I think this all makes sense. Can we talk about it? And he sends me the numbers and I look at it and I'm like, yeah, this is one that may just die. Like it doesn't support the bank financing. They don't, I mean, there are times it just is what it is, right? Like there's not, this is, you don't catch a falling knife, right? Like if you let it hit the floor, like
Yeah.
there's just, and as much as I hate to say that, I mean, there are absolutely 100% times that there's nothing you can do, but there's more often that you can.
Yeah. Well,
And the
that's where
other,
you go.
But yeah, I was going to say the other side of it that I love, and especially like when I just said, like I'll help my listeners to buy the numbers and making chips, if they reach out. The other part I take a lot of pride in and very passionate about is helping them. And you talk to these, this next generation of manufacturing leaders, and a lot of them want to own a shop. And the default is how we built this industry, which is a machinist bought a machine, started making parts, bought another machine, started making more parts, hired a person, moved into an industrial space, and then, now they're sitting with 12, 15 machines and 10 employees or whatever, right? I mean, that is our industry. So that is the natural path that people want to follow, right?
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
want, and they want to build, excuse me, they want to build their shop, right? They want to do automated 5-axis work, whatever, right? Like they want to do what they want to do. They don't want to do what that company that's going out of business is doing. What I try to encourage them to do is like, no, but don't ignore those, right? Because you can take those and you have people, you have machines, you have customers, you create cash flow, you reinvest your cash flow, and now you're an automated 5-axis shop,
Yeah.
right? And it's a whole lot easier to do it that path than it is to go buy an automated 5-axis machine for $600,000.
Yeah.
With no customers.
Well,
Right.
and you're there to that's the advantage of them being able to talk to you, get your mentorship, your guidance, your insight, and the plain truth about, hey, this one might not be the right one because it's teetering right here, and that might bug an idealist, right? Like I might look at it and go, oh man, there's got to be a way, and you'd be like, Greg, I feel you, man. I wish that was true, but I'm not seeing it, and that gives me
Right.
an opportunity to kind of, you know what? Mike's trying to help me here,
Right. Sure.
prevent me from doing something. I want to switch gears on something.
Okay.
And I didn't premise you on this at all other
Okay.
than at the beginning of this recording. I want to talk a little bit about maintenance because CMMS radio, yeah, it's about computerized maintenance management software, but it's
Sure.
really about maintenance management, the people and the process. So when you're working with your own facility and the manufacturing process and the fabrication, or things that you've seen over all these years, we mentioned that you're going to Hexagon Live. You talk to a lot of people. Also, you work with Paul. He's got ProShop ERP. But when we talk about maintenance management, how often do you see that maintenance management, good maintenance management practices within these different facilities and organizations being an opportunity that the people running it can't quite get right? And how often do you see that they are getting it right when it comes to focusing in on good, great maintenance fundamentals, et cetera? Anything you got for us on that?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm going to fold it back to what we just talked about, right? So here I am. I mean, half my growth I expect to come from acquisition of other shops. A lot of those shops, under the same scenario I just mentioned, are older shops, with people that have probably been ready to retire for anywhere from 2 to 7 years. Well, guess what happens when you're ready to retire for 2 to 7 years? You
Oh,
quit
you start eating.
Yeah, you quit reinvesting in yourself, right? So
Yeah.
you don't invest in the latest greatest tooling. You don't buy new machines. You maybe cut back on maintenance. You cut back, like there's a lot of things that if you're ready to be done, you don't do, right?
Yeah.
I would put maintenance at a very high end of that list of things you stop doing. And whether that's machines or facilities or anything like that, that quickly takes a back seat, right? Like, do I want to spend $250,000 on a new roof for my facility if I'm going to sell it in 2 years?
Push it out.
Yeah, I just don't put a new roof on it, right? Do I want to have that maintenance contract on my 15-year-old machine if I'm going to sell it in a year? Push it out, right? Like, let's just fix what's broke, right? And so maintenance, from the aspect of preventative maintenance goes away, right? It absolutely affects the value of your business, right? So when you have someone like me come in, I mean, I am buying your machines. I'm not valuing your machines. I'm valuing your EBITDA, right? And your earnings. But if I'm looking at a shop full of 9 machines that haven't had maintenance done on them in 6 years, I do look at that. I mean, now, so here's the value of maintenance. Let's just run some math. Let's say you have, let's use, I'll try to do this as easy math. Let's say you have 10 machines and they're all 15 years or older, and you've kind of stopped doing maintenance, and you haven't invested in your work holding, your tooling, and your people, and your systems, and your processes, right? But let's say with those 10 machines, you're doing $1.5 million a year. You're dropping, let's say you're even doing really good with that, and you're dropping 20% bottom line. It means you're making $300,000 a year, but you have not done your maintenance. You have not kept up with technology. You have not invested in your people, all these things. I'm going to pay you, and I say most people, you're going to be worth 2.5 times that, maybe 3. So your shop's worth, so if you're making 300 and let's just go with 3, because I don't want to do half, I don't want to do fractional half math. You're worth $900,000. But if you've kept up with all those things, and your machines are in great, your facility and your machines, as it relates to maintenance, are in great shape, and you do have modern work holding, and you do have people that, are invested in the shop and all that, I might pay you a 4, maybe even a 4.5. So let's just say it's a 4. Well, I'm going to pay you now 4 times 300,000. That's 1.2 million. That's an extra $300,000 in the value of your business because it's well maintained. Not just,
Yeah.
and when I say well maintained, I mean, like, let's use the most broad definition of that and say, yes, your facilities, your machines, your people, your work holding, like everything is well maintained, right? Like I can literally buy this and start running it tomorrow. I don't have to invest hundreds of thousands of dollars in it myself to get it to what I expect it to be, right? So I'm going to pay you more for that. So, I mean, when I look at maintenance, I mean, that's where my mind goes, but I'm a deal guy, right? Like I like to buy companies, and so that's where I would say, like, don't overlook the value of a good maintenance program, right? Because all you're really doing is devaluing your company.
I love the way you've put this and the way you described it based on what you see, what you do, what you understand, because there's always this challenge. So now we just open this up to everybody, this challenge about how do we connect maintenance to the business? We know it's connected, but it just doesn't get seen. It's on the balance sheet as an option. And this is a great story for why that's not an option, why it not only adds value, but it preserves value. And then when someone comes in and acquires something, if we're talking purely about acquisitions here, when that is the case, there is a value, and it's substantial based on the numbers you just shared, to the fact that nothing's hiding around the corner. Like you're gonna drop 2 machines all of a sudden, and now you're upside down $500,000.
Right. Yeah. No. And if people want to come listen to me on By the Numbers, you'll hear me talk a lot about, run your business like you're ready to sell it, right? Whether you are or you're not, right? So one of the things that's a little bit of a mind shift when you start looking at that is you look at, so again, people in this industry, you're buying earnings, you're buying a multiple of earnings, whether it's 2 or whether it's 8, right? Like it's whatever that range is, you fall somewhere in that range based on the health of your business, right? So I look at things like, there's expenses you can gather. So let's say I have a $50,000 expense. I look at that at 5 times that. It's really costing me $250,000 because it's affecting my earnings by 50. And I feel like my company's, I could sell it really quickly, I think, at a 5, right? Because I'm a healthy business. I'm growing. I've got, I'm probably a 5.5 or 6, maybe even, right? So it's a $250,000 decision to spend that $50,000. It's also could be a $250,000 decision to not spend it, right? I mean, so when you look at that maintenance, like, okay, I don't want to spend $50,000 on a new roof, but now, like, does someone want to buy your business when it needs a new roof? I mean, that's kind of a simple example, but so you have to think beyond like, what is today's cost, right? It's like, well, how much is it costing me today, but how much value is it either creating or taking away by spending or not spending that money also?
Yeah. Those those are the kinds of things that are critical to managing the roadmap and doing your best to somewhat anticipate what's coming. You can't anticipate everything. No. These are things that are kind of known. And for anybody that doesn't understand it, when Mike says, well, that's a 4, that's a 5, that's a 6, what he's talking about there is oftentimes referred to as a multiplier. And if it's based on EBITDA, then, think 4x. He was giving that math example with the 300,000. And so just so anybody that doesn't know what that is, because it can be really hard to figure out.
Yeah, I do apologize. I kind of rattled through that quickly, but man, that's a perfect example of what, that's a perfect explanation of what I was saying.
Plus, if anybody doesn't know, they can find you, connect with you, and ask those questions. You're 100%. You're on LinkedIn. It's Mike Payne, Payne. So you can find 100%. Him there. I want to close out with 2 things. First thing is, what are you going to be doing at Hexagon Live? Because I have seen online that you're heading to Hexagon Live. That's going to be in Las Vegas. It's in June. As a matter of fact, the dates for Hexagon Live in June are June 16th through 19th. And just want to find out, what are you going to be doing there, Mike?
So first of all, I'm having a damn good time. And I hope as many of your listeners and mine are there to have a good time with. But I'm going to be, so since I told you the origin story of me being in software, specifically in manufacturing, to today, one of the things we did a lot when I was in the manufacturing software business is we were back. So this is, mid-late 90s. We were doing what today is very commonly referred to as machine monitoring, right? So we were custom installing the hardware and the software to go get data out of a CNC machine or a grinder or something, something, right? So we're getting like cycle times and we're getting weights and we're getting quality data and all this stuff. Back then it used to cost, I would have charged you $500,000 to do that. Now you can buy it, software as a service for, $60 per machine per month or something crazy,
Yeah.
And so we're going to talk. So the speaking session that I'll be doing is kind of that journey of machine monitoring from when I was doing it 30 years ago in a very custom environment for only the largest companies in the world, because they're the only ones that could spend $500,000 to do it.
Yeah.
To now where it's accessible to all of us. Right. And what's the value of the data you're getting out of those machines and what decisions it allows you to make and those types of things.
Yeah. So. And I encourage everybody to to go to a presentation like that, because it's not just a presentation for the sake of presenting. It's going to be filled with story, background, meaning, and it gives people better opportunities to make these decisions, know what's possible. And I'm not over here promoting it because I'm trying to sell something. I'm promoting it because it's really important the way these things work at these conferences, or if you're on a podcast, or if you're on the right kind of webinar that doesn't sell shit, but actually adds value, gives people stuff to think about. I love getting people thinking, and I love having fun. I don't mind an occasional F-bomb, and it's about keeping things real.
Yep.
So now I want to move you into what all first timers on CMMS radio must suffer through, and it's not painful. It's a no wrong answers, fun question segment. Okay. I like to blast through 3 questions with you. Nothing's off limits here. There's no wrong answers. It's just for us to have a little bit of fun.
Okay.
Question number 1. What is your favorite music?
I'm pretty solid on almost any country, but definitely like kind of 90s country.
All right. Number 2, what is your favorite sport or hobby? And on the sport, it does not have to be one that you play. It could be one you like to cheer for, root for, whatever the case may be.
Well, now that both of my kids are out of school and I don't get to watch their sports, which is probably like the biggest thing I miss about them growing up, is I coached my son and like all this, like you miss that stuff. So amazing. Like I would just tell, like just side subject, if you're in an age where you have kids that are in those sports, like don't get frustrated about the weekend tournament. Like go and savor every second of it, because at some point there's not another game.
Yep.
And I would give anything to watch my son hit another home run or sack a quarterback or anything. Watch my daughter in another dance recital, whatever it is. So then what do I enjoy? I mean, fly fishing and golf. That's my 2. You could lose me for days.
Nice. I have
Especially
not
the fly
heard.
Fishing.
Yeah, I haven't heard a guest yet mention fly fishing, and we could do a whole episode just on fly fishing, man, and it's probably a whole damn series.
You could lose me for weeks. If you put me on a trout stream in Colorado or Montana or something, and I will throw my phone in the river.
Nice. I love that. We'd all love to do that, man, if we only had the balls.
Matter of fact, I have dropped my phone in the river doing that, and I didn't worry about it. It was fine.
All right, here's the big one, man. This is the big, fun question. What is your philosophy, perspective, opinion, anything at all when it comes to this concept of work-life balance?
That it's bullshit and it doesn't exist. We actually recorded an entire Making Chips, two series Making Chips episode on this last summer. And my philosophy, and I don't have the quote in front of me, so I can't read the whole thing off, but if anybody's ever seen the quote about becoming a master in the art of living, it's really more about, to me, it's more about finding an integrated life. And what I would say is, like, I strive for this integrated life where, my work fuels my personal life, my personal life fuels my work. And one of my favorite parts of the quote of the art of living is, I let others try to decide if I'm working or I'm playing. To me, I'm always doing both.
Yeah.
So like, is what we're doing right now, am I working or am I playing? I'm just having fun.
Both. It's both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
There's a work element. We're talking about work, but I'm having fun doing it, So to me, you just have to find that balance of, like, how do you turn, it's just the integration of the two, right? Like, my family supports my work. I work a lot. I mean, I work by every standard imaginable. I work more than you're supposed to.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a minimum 60 to 70 hour a week person, week in, week out, have been for 30 years. But if you ask my kids, if you ask my wife, like, did they ever suffer from that? Their answer is going to be hell no. Like, he never missed a game. He never, He never missed anything. Like, I was always there, right? It might mean I didn't work. I mean, it might mean I left work at 2 and picked it back up at 10 o'clock after the kids were asleep. But I always got my shit done, and I was always there. I've always been there for my family. And I mean, both come first, I mean, if that makes sense. Like, I mean, and I know that's not feasible, but any given day, any given week, like, one does, right? And I think you go through seasons in life where, some things are going to take priority that maybe should or shouldn't or whatever, whether it's a work thing, like your personal life is suffering a little bit for work, and there's times that your work life suffers for your personal life. But I think you just have to find that integration where they both drive each other. And I think you can find a lot of satisfaction. I think the reason I say work-life balance is bullshit is because I've never heard anybody refer to that in that I need to work more.
It's
right.
I dig it because this is the reason I say there's no wrong answers, because, and I say this every time somebody's going to hear this, they're going to understand it. They're going to be intrigued by it. They're going to be thinking about it. And, we all got to just kind of figure that out on our own. We can listen to people, we can read stuff, but in the end, you got a lot of things you got to do. You got a lot of things you have to prioritize, and it's going to be different for everybody. There are literal workhorses out there that can do it all. And some of them don't burn out because it's integrated. So I like the way you put it. I love the way you started out with, I think it's bullshit, because that's not wrong. Anybody that wants to try to prove us wrong, it's not about right or wrong. It's about what works. That is really all it is. And I want everybody to know, just to remind you, this is Mike Payne. I want you to check out Making Chips. You can find that. That's the podcast, but it's also an entire series of podcasts. There's 10 different ones, and that'll probably continue to grow. Do a lot of cool stuff there.
We got a couple things up our sleeve. I think we'll have probably 12 by the end of the year, for sure.
Nice.
So. But it's
nice. Well,
and again, the whole thing is built around like how to run your business, not how to run machines, right? So it's built off that whole genesis of our industry that we talked about, where someone started with a machine, they've started making parts, they bought another machine, they start hiring people. They never, in a lot of cases, you never learn how to run the business, though. Right.
Yeah.
So, and they've done well. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, like most people in this industry have done really, really well on that journey. There's just things you could do better. Right. So hopefully we provide like little nuggets of knowledge that help somebody do a little bit better.
Yeah, I think so. I hope so. And there it is. Mike Payne. Stick around, but thank you for being with me here on CMMS Radio.
I enjoyed it a lot.
Thanks, brother. Cool. Did you find this episode helpful? Please send us some feedback, suggest a topic, or ask a question. Reach out to CMMS Radio if you need a co-pilot on your CMMS project. Visit CMMSradio.com and use the What's on Your Mind link. Thank you for tuning in to CMMS Radio, your resource for all things CMMS, from selection to implementation, to help you make better choices, learn from industry experts, and have a successful CMMS journey.